awareness of the weather. So if you wish to attend. Check button.
They
Nebraska and try to see the eclipse there. But we thought, well, you know what? We're pretty close to the Yellowstone Park, so let's go out there first, and then we'll head in from there. So we went out to Yellowstone and spent a few days there, seeing some of the sights. And lo and behold, we're at this sulfur springs, trying to avoid the smell of it. We turn around, and this couple comes walking along, and they were members from our RASC back home who we didn't know was going to be there. So it was kind of funny that here we are all the way out in Yellowstone and run into people that we knew from back home. We did a few of the other sites while we were out there. So we made a good trip of it. Finally got to Nebraska where we were going to see the eclipse. We had rented this little bunkie. We made sure we rented it for a couple of nights because the prediction for the traffic on the interstates was supposed to be ridiculous, so we didn't want to be stuck on the interstate, so we stayed for a couple of days. And there's quite a few people camping there, and they certainly enjoyed participating in viewing the eclipse as well. We had the Dobbs set up, and as you can see, we had quite a lineup of people to see the eclipse in 2017. So those are some of our pictures. And so again, being interested, just started experimenting. I don't know if that was going to, I don't know, the Jupiter is supposed to be a little video. I don't know if it's going to play or not. So tried experimenting with a little imaging of planetary work. And then came the pandemic.
Right, so the pandemic is when I couldn't get together with my friends to go out visual observing, so I set up my Dob in my Bortle 7 backyard and tried to see stuff, and it was like a nightmare. You couldn't make out anything really. So then my husband, being so wonderful as he is, said, oh, you can put a DSLR in that scope. And that's what I did. So my Dob plus my DSLR made me produce some of the most awful pictures I've ever seen. But at the time, that picture over there of the dumbbell, that was, to me, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I actually had it framed because that was more than I could see visually. And then, you know, I did the Hercules globular cluster. This is all with a 10-inch Dob. And then we've got M51 there, but again, more than I could see visually, and and you guys, I don't know if you remember this, but that was the black hole, the first ever picture of a black hole from M87. Well, I found that I didn't need that. I could use my 10-inch Dob, and I could get pictures of not just one black hole. Look at all the black holes in my picture. I found out later that I didn't discover anything new. I was just really bad focus. So then with a little practice with PixInsight, that picture got a little bit better.
A different gear too.
Was it different gear? I don't think it was.
Oh, no, same gear, yeah.
It was the same gear.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know what I'm talking about. So anyway, then I decided I probably would like to do better pictures. And the first thing I said was, I need an EQ mount, don't I? So I got an EQ mount. And then I put that picture, that Newton on it, and got these pictures, if you can tell what they are. But anyway, I decided I would probably need to get a refractor to get better pictures. So I said to my husband, don't I need a refractor? He said, well, we can get you a nice doublet. What do you use, Stefan?
Well, I had a triplet.
A triplet. So guess what? Me too. If he gets one, I get one. So that's where the Me Too clause came into effect. So if he had, you know, automatic focus, me too. And it just went down the whole list. I ended up with an Astro camera because he had one, I had to have one too. And this is where I got really into the automation and got automatic everything, pretty much. But I still had to set it up outside. And the umbrella was just to shade it from the sun.
Cover the box.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I can't read that. I've got too much glare.
So one of the things we did, this is when we were living in Sarnia, so we built that box to go around the mount, and she could leave her mount outside and just bring this tube in, and then we had...
Oh, yeah,
So there you
turned
go.
a garbage can upside down.
And-
And then put the telegizmo over that, and then we stretched out a big tarp, because in the winter, like I only had to dig the crop circle around my rig once, and then the rest of the winter, the tarp kept the snow off of my area.
Yeah, so that made it, at least then everything was always polar aligned and ready to go. So and if there was going to be a few good nights in a row, then she could leave the tube on the mount and image a few nights in a row. And if it was going to be bad weather, she could bring it in and cover it up. And it lived like that for how long?
A year and a half. I had 2 rigs that lived outside for a year and a half under telegizmo gear. And of course, the pictures got better. And that's what I named my telescopes, because that's what girls do. I have Thing 1 and Thing 2 because I was a big fan of Dr. Zeus. But as you can see, my pictures got a lot better than the first ones I showed you. And there's where I have Thing 2. This was a little ASCAR 200 because I wanted something wider field to get some of the bigger nebula. And I repurposed some things, and like I switched over the 294 to this scope, and I bought a new camera for the other scope, and I was happy to have my 2 rigs. And I've got a true color version and then a false Hubble palette. I got playing around. You don't have to actually do mono to get mono looking images. And anyway, what have we got there?
It's just a bunch of pictures.
Oh, just a bunch of pictures. There you go.
So just to show the progression.
Oh, this is the veil. That's
that was
with
your
my
first
Newton.
one.
With my Newt, and then, with the better gear and better knowledge and more processing experience.
So you throw more money at it, you get better pictures. That seems to be the way it goes. But eventually, she was asked to speak at Starfest, and so, our journey kept moving along as we moved along with the different things we were doing.
Oh, yeah. I actually went camping all by myself without him because he had this thing he had to do called work. So in May and June, I could go off and join a bunch of other astro people at River Place Park. And I had, in my Honda Fit, I could get my 2 telescopes, I could get a tent, I could get an ice hut, I could get everything I needed, plus my dog, my clothes, and there's the setup that, I did just to get out to River Place Park or Saugeen Riverbank, that one's from.
Yeah.
So I could do all this astronomy on my own. And one of my favorite things to do was comet hunting, and that is actually, is that not your picture?
I'm not sure.
That's 12P Pons Brooks. This is a really good thing for those of you that have wondered how you can stay warm outside in winter while you're doing visual observing. If you get yourself an ice hut, you can get them pretty cheap. They go up in 5 minutes. You put a little heater in it, but you don't turn it on until you need it. You go outside, you observe, and when you need to warm up, you go back in. And my friend Marie and I have pulled a couple of all-nighters just because we were able to go in and out and warm up with this for visual observing. And these are some of my other poor pictures of comets that I've taken over the years. But again, they tend to get better with time. That one on the far, you're right, is Comet Leonard with the whale and hockey stick galaxy. And this is my most recent one from last October 14th. That was Thanksgiving Day, and that was from my backyard. And that's Comet to Shinshan Atlas.
And then you...
Did I do these?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm having a hard time reading this.
that's okay.
Anyway, these are just some of the lunar images that I've taken because, if you can't do your deep space stuff, there's always the moon. When there isn't the moon, in the daytime, there's the sun.
So in 2022, I was lucky enough to be able to retire from my job. And so we decided, well, we don't really want to stay living in the city. We don't need to be, in a city. We want to move somewhere out where there's darker skies, where we can, spend a little more time doing our astronomy. And that led us to move from Sarnia, one end of the province, almost all the way to the other side of the province, to Athens, just north of Brockville. So we figure that's probably our most expensive astronomy upgrade we've ever made. But we certainly really enjoy the area that we're in now. And led us to being able to build a little observatory in our backyard. And I'm just going to play. So this is just a short video on, if you can, I'll just talk over top of it. If there's sound, you can turn the sound off. So what I did is I did a concept idea of where we wanted to put it. So I just used tarps and made the size and put scopes in to see, is it going to fit? I was digging down about 12 inches. I hit bedrock, so I cleared out an area of all the dirt. And so there you can see I'm down to the bedrock. And so we figured out where within there I was going to put the piers, not for the scopes, but for the building, because I wanted the building to be up above the ground because I didn't want the moisture and everything. So you can see I put the sonotubes in. I drilled and put rebar right into the bedrock, and then we poured cement in so that they aren't going to move anywhere. And then I filled it with gravel. And then 2x8s for the floor joists and some pressure treated 3/4 inch plywood painted with basement floor paint. I kind of did a frame so I could actually take the 2 middle 4x8 sheets out if I ever have to get under it again. And then I 2x4 stud walls. My wife thinks it should have been 6 inches shorter. My scopes are taller than hers. She's shorter than me, so she would have liked it a bit shorter, but that's what we ended up with. And then covered it. So we made the roll-off roof, which works quite nicely. I probably went a little overboard with the roll-off roof. I used 3-inch garage door track and 3-inch wheels, and I put a dozen each side, so it really distributes the weight, but it rolls really easily. And I did it a little different. Most people put them on the inside, where I put them on the outside so that I wasn't having issues with them bumping into anything inside.
As you can see, that was way too tall for me.
So we ran Ethernet out underground into it as well. So it's actually connected directly into our router in the house and then to our desktop computers in the house. So that way each of the scopes in there has a mini computer on it and is connected to the Ethernet so that the data goes right to our desktops, which are faster for processing. And then eventually we automated the roof using a gate opening system. And so you just press a button and now we can do everything from inside. Yeah, that should be about the end. Yeah, we're not going to watch the automating the roof one. We've already seen pictures. So that was, and that's what it looks like now that it's done. So that's really made it convenient for us to be able to do our astrophotography. We also got into solar imaging, and so these are some of the pictures that we've taken with the solar imaging. This was a video I entered for Starfest this year. I think it's just short, 30 seconds. Just some of the stuff that we did with our solar imaging. And living where we do, we sometimes go down to the St. Lawrence or we travel around just trying to find different sites to get pictures in different ways. So again, something that we can enjoy doing together, it's still part of our lifestyle. And of course, we still attend Starfest. This was kind of our group photo of all the group of us that kind of hangs around together. And there's Andrea front and center. So. And that's one of the things we like about astronomy is you meet so many great people and develop so many great friends that, it's so nice where our journey has brought us to all these great people. These are scopes that we've had in the past that we don't have anymore. And I'm sure you guys many of you are in the same boat where you've gone through a lot of different equipment. And here's kind of the assortment of what we have now. You just kind of seem to keep collecting and collecting, but
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
that's.
But one scope for us just didn't do it all. Like if
you don't play
want,
golf
like,
with one club.
So
And so,
thanks to Andrea for this picture.
yeah, but what we say is enjoy whatever is about astronomy that makes you happy, because that's what it is. There's so many different things you can do and enjoy with astronomy. So make sure you do the things that make you happy and enjoy. And that was from Starfest 2 years ago. And that's the end.
Well, you guys are very good, very brisk.
Did we go quick enough?
You did, but hang on a second. Do we have any questions in the audience for Shelley and Stefan? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Much
Thank you for
appreciated.
inviting us.
Yes. Oh, those are yours. And your water? Wonderful. And late breaking news, we do have a Zoom connection. So for those of you watching our meeting on Zoom, sorry for the initial delay. We had a few gremlins on the loose. Seem to have gotten most of them under control. So welcome to the meeting. And you didn't miss much up front. You got the good stuff from Shelley and Stefan. Yes, sir.
16 people on Zoom waded through the problem and are still with us. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. Good work. All right. Actually, we're doing actually much better. You guys were awesome. You guys, those are a lot of slides, but that was perfect. So we can take a bit of a short break. Hang on a sec. Let me just have a peek here. I'll run through those first because then we have our second presentation. We can have that right after the break. So for those of you that aren't familiar with our club, for the visitors and other folks tuning in, there are many benefits of joining our RASC organization. We certainly have a cadre of very knowledgeable people that are all too willing to help if you have any questions or you're just getting started. And that is one of the strengths of being a member. As Shelley and Stefan pointed out, it's the camaraderie of people with common interests that makes astronomy a wonderful pursuit to share with other folks. In addition to our members, we also have various benefits. We have a telescope loan library. So again, if you're new to astronomy and you haven't bought a telescope, if you want to avoid maybe buying 10 telescopes, well, that's a good question. Why would you? I didn't follow that advice either. I've got almost as many as they have. But we have the loan library, and so you can borrow telescopes. We have a number of telescopes that are available for loaning, and so try before you buy. And you can come out to the FLO site, which is pictured on the bottom there, our dark sky site near Almont, and test them out. We also have a library of books that Estelle runs, and she's with us tonight, so she will have the library open. Am I right, Estelle? Yep. Thank you much. She will have that open, and you feel free to browse what we have there, again, out for loan. Excuse me. We also have, as part of your membership, you get the annual Observer's Handbook. This is a classic publication that's been put out by the RASC for decades. It's a go-to reference for amateur and even professional astronomers. Many well-written articles, also month-by-month detailed information about what's in the sky. So that comes with your membership. You also get access to the RASC Journal, which covers more detailed subjects and is put out online. We also get Astronauts, which is our monthly newsletter. All right. The goodies just keep on coming. As a member, you also have access to our Discord server, which allows you to share things in images and thoughts and conversations with other members. You also get this is a really nice benefit here as well. You get a pro membership for the Astrospheric Pro application. This is a wonderful app that's chock full of information, especially about weather conditions in various places. There is a free version of this also available, but if you want the full meal deal, normally costs you $66 a month. You have access to that free with your membership at the RASC. So a lot of good stuff. Currently, our membership rates are as posted there. We are in the process of reviewing those, and currently this is where we stand. And we also have, we just wanted to share this renewal notice. The head office is changing its rules slightly for the renewal process. Typically, we've had a 2-month grace period. If you forget to send in or renew your membership, give you a 2-month benefit. But they're excuse me, they're eliminating that. And so it's important that you renew your membership to maintain your member status, because it'll lapse if you exceed your deadline. All right. And that's where we'll leave it. We'll take a break. As I say, we have a fairly lengthy presentation after the break. So 10 minutes, please. Go stretch your legs, have a bio break, and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi, Jerry. For the general presentation or for speaker, Alex, it actually isn't. But based on I just have to submit that form. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that first because I wasn't quite sure what's involved. There's some security stuff in this. No? Okay. I think that's what I wanted to touch base with you first because I wasn't quite sure where to go with that. Okay. So if you don't think it's very elaborate, I'll just do it for that. I'm not sure. Right.
I have to check the email address.
Okay, I have not.
Same thing there. I don't know if this
Possibly, yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Nick,
Okay.
in the flesh. I didn't recognize you when you weren't on screen. No table. I guess not. You know, the table's got moved. Like the sound. Yeah, and the monitor.
Yes.
Really? None of it's working. There's no monitor. Oh, well, we live without.
Mick, how are you doing?
Alrighty.
Gremlins.
It's all dead.
Yeah, apparently.
Looking forward to Saturday. I was going to watch online, but
You're close enough to make it in, were you?
sorry.
You're close enough to make it in quickly?
Well, it took me half an hour.
Oh, okay.
We just arrived.
Right.
Sorry, I just appeared out of nowhere. I'm just
Sure.
trying to get this working for you.
Perfect, thanks.
Aha.
That would be outstanding.
A technical guy.
Exactly.
If I can keep that reputation, that is.
Yeah, just scrutinize everything you're doing, okay?
Well,
G'day.
Signals. Okay. So what I'm thinking is that you're supposed to be seeing the screen he has up there.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we have no input here. I'm gonna tell him about that, and we'll see if we can get some progress here.
Perfect. Thanks.
And how long is your break going to be?
We got about 5 minutes left.
5 minutes. I'll see what I can do.
All right. Thanks.
International business machines.
It's better manually.
Yeah? I could see that.
Yeah. Wanted to ask you about
Yes, sir.
presentation ideas.
Yes.
So I like to make stuff. I made an observing chair and
Oh, yes, please.
weird.
To answer your question, yeah. No, that's
But like,
what.
could I bring things in?
Yes,
Like,
most definitely.
Okay.
It's all the better if you can bring them in and show them, and then in the breaks that we have here now. And
yeah,
show
so people
them.
could like wander up and try it.
Exactly. Oh no, I'd welcome that. That's one of the things I ask for. Make stuff because a lot of us make our own bits and pieces, right, to make things fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I would welcome that.
Weird Frankenstein.
Today's got to be Friday the 13th or
Yeah,
something.
it's okay. It's dark. It doesn't have to look pretty.
That's good.
So yeah, send me an email. Let me know what you got in mind, and I can probably slate you for November, December-ish, because programs are.
Yeah, I remember you said like
Yeah,
later in the.
early winter, late fall there. But yes, I would welcome that. I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Trying to debug it.
Yeah, because the input is set to laptop, and he has it set up to receive inputs up there.
Right.
So theoretically, there shouldn't be any problems. But evidently, we do have a problem. So I'm just.
And then you've got power on it, but the data cables are.
That's what I'm thinking. If there's anything unplugged here.
Seem all right?
It looks all right to me.
It'd be nice to have it.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Then that's the, because then people are,
I don't want to screw it.
I've got it printed on my slides.
you know, okay.
I'm gonna give it a try with an on and off again. We'll see if
Okay.
that one works. What were you touching?
Jeez, yeah. You should have added that to it.
Hopefully, I didn't give him a heart attack up there.
Sorry about that. I'm just gonna slip my binder in there.
Okay.
It's there.
I'm gonna go up there again.
Well, it's kind of pretty decent.
We've got till 11 o'clock here anyway, right? Sorry? We've got till 11 o'clock here?
You gotta be out by 10. I hear you. I tried that line tune, it doesn't fly. think we got the gremlins worked out.
Still in the monitor, but hey.
Yeah, that, they were having an issue with that. I don't know. It's actually not even powered right now. Maybe I shouldn't touch any buttons. All right, if I can ask you to take your seats there, we are ready to resume. Sorry again about the delay. We had new gremlins come and visit us, so go figure, right? Nothing we astronomers are not used to, right? Gremlins with their equipment. All right. So without further ado, there we go. So we have our presentation on light pollution abatement. Bernie, Rick, and Chetna are going to present segments of this individually, and we're going to start off with Bernie. There we go. Advance, laser, back.
All right. Hi, everyone. Light pollution abatement is a topic that you could easily spend a whole weekend going over. A lot of you understand what light pollution is. What may be a problem is convincing others that it is a problem to them. As Stefan and Shelley were briefly talked about it before the meeting. So what we're planning on doing is giving you the terminology so that when you talk to others, you have a stronger basis and you can convince them a little bit better that it's not just about seeing the night sky, it's about better sleep, it's about better health. So this is the things we're going to talk about. Just going to define the light pollution, health and safety hazards of light pollution, its impact on astronomy and science, which we basically know, some strategies to reduce it at home, and effective communication. So you're thinking, great, here's another guy up here talking about pollution, another type of pollution you'll have to spend some bandwidth on solving. But this is a different type of pollution. This is an easy one for us to solve individually. It's a matter of turning off a light that's not being used. From Webster's, pollution is the introduction of harmful or poisonous substances, pollutants, into the environment, causing undesirable effects. These substances can be solids, liquids, gases, or even energy like heat, light, and noise that contaminate air, water, or land. Pollution can negatively impact ecosystems, human health, and overall well-being. So we've proven now that light pollution is the excessive or misdirected artificial light that disrupts the natural night environment. So types, glare and visual discomfort. A lot of people are familiar with this from headlights. Sky brightening at night. If you go outside downtown Ottawa, you won't see anything. Maybe you might see a couple planets. You might see Orion in the middle of winter, but other than that, it's non-existent in the towns. Trespass effects. That's when the light from your neighbor's light goes into your windows at night. You have blackout curtains so that you can avoid that at night or that light. And it's hard to do astronomy if you're trying to block out the neighbor's lights. Clutter. This is really familiar for anybody who's trying to drive downtown at night when it's everything seems to be lit up and somebody walks in front of you wearing a color pattern that really doesn't affect things. Another example is driving through a construction site at night with all the little blinking orange lights and traffic lights. Common sources, streetlights. Streetlights have gone from sodium, high pressure sodium, which is an orange type of light with a little dome underneath it, and you can see the light pretty good, to a still a Cobra style head with LEDs that are set inside. The light color is different. The brightness on those lights are much brighter, and as you're approaching them, you get the glare from them a lot worse. Illuminated signage, everybody knows what that is. Starting to see a lot more LED display boards, which are not only bright, but they're distracting because they're changing and stuff like that. And of course, residential and commercial lights. Most residential lighting, if it's not decorative on purpose, like people lighting up their trees, putting lights in their eaves and stuff like that, it's usually going to be a lantern-style headlight or a light with pretty much an exposed light bulb like this thing up here. It's causing a lot of glare. The light's not pointing down, and it's often of the wrong color. Trends in the city, of course, we're seeing more and more light because it's cheap. LED lights don't use any electricity to speak of, so they just leave them on all the time, right? Department stores, buildings, office buildings, stuff like that, they're lighting up their exterior to advertise themselves. At 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody cares. Turn off your light. Over illumination, not only are they putting lots of light out, they're putting too much light out. They're putting out so much light that it reflects off the ground. If it's a shielded light, it goes off the ground and bounces up into the sky, which impacts the night sky. A lot of people say it's for security, but proponents of this lighting is often the lighting companies. There's a lot of research out that said, 20% reduction in lighting. Listen to Light Pollution News, and they went back and found out that 20% reduction in crime from lighting is from GE. They put it out when they were talking about their street lights. There's no reduction in crime. There's actually an increase in crime. When your thieves don't need to have a light with them, see inside your vehicle. They don't need to have a light to see what's in your house because you get it lit up. It makes it easier for them. Which are you more likely to notice? A person walking around a building that's lit, or someone walking around a building with a flashlight? Right? Which is more suspicious to you? Health and safety. Melatonin is one of the key hormones in your body, sorry. It controls your circadian rhythm, basically. It also controls a lot of your immune system functions. So if you're not getting sleep because the light's on all the time, it's because your melatonin is not being generated properly. As much as 8 lux of light, which is less than any night light in your room, can affect your melatonin production. So it has impact on sleep disorders, which improves, helps, or affects your mental health. There's an increase in obesity, heart disease, and some types of cancer, breast cancer, associated with the reduction of melatonin production from night light, or light at night, sorry. Impact of glare. For those of us that are 45 and older, our eyes are starting to generate calcium byproducts, which eventually will lead to cataracts. Those calcium byproducts really, really good at diffracting light, which is why you get glare from headlights. So a lot of us don't like driving at night for that reason. Poorly designed lighting can create visual discomfort and reduces safety, especially on the roads. If you can't see where you're going because somebody's got a bright light coming at you, high beams, for example, then the same thing happens when you have traffic lights that are bad. So what affects us also affects the wildlife at night. And it's not just out in the country you have to worry about this. Pollinators within the city, there's about 50% pollinators during the day, which is butterflies, bees, hummingbirds, and stuff like that. But at night, there's dozens of different species of moths and stuff like that that go around and pollinate as well. If they're not there at night because of the light, they're all stuck around a street light or your outdoor light on your step. They're not doing their job. Eventually, your pollination goes down, and that service of your fruit trees or whatever you have in your area becomes a problem, and they start to die off. We also know that a lot of birds migrate at night. They use the sky, the stars, the moon, stuff like that to fly from place to place. If it's a bright city, that distracts them into the city, and then they start flying into buildings that are lit or not lit at night. A lot of people have been talking in the news about the number of birds that are killed by windmills. Maybe you have an idea how many? In North America, they suspect about 117,000 a year for windmills. How many fly into buildings? About 1 billion. The only thing that kills more birds than buildings is cats. Keep your cat inside. This is a topic we all are fairly familiar with. If you live in a city, you have to buy filters for your cameras. You also have to buy blinds for your to keep your neighbors' lights and stuff like that out of it. Out in the country where I am, it's not that bad. But even places like in the Atacama Desert, they're starting to have problems right now. One of the big sites they have are the Very Large Telescope. They're building a solar and green hydrogen gas plant 5 kilometers away. Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare for them. Chile has been approached by the ESA, to have that pushed down the road, even 20 kilometers, they said. And they're basically getting paid by the companies that, you know, if we have to move 20 kilometers, you have to build 20 kilometers of road, blah, blah, blah. So it's a losing battle, and ESA may lose their prime telescope sites. So yeah, we know the limitations here and challenges for observatories. So some of the strategies that we need to keep in mind for ourselves and when you're talking to your neighbors. Lights are only useful if they're needed. So if they have no purpose other than flooding your tree at night, you know, keep it on until, you know, an hour after sunset or something like that, which is too late for us to do a lot of astronomy anyway. And it's also not that far off of the natural night time for the birds and stuff like that. It should be targeted and it should be shielded. So targeted where it's needed and shielded from trespass as well as going up into the sky. Only as bright as needed. You don't need a 100-watt bulb equivalent when you only need 10 watts to light up a pathway or something like that. Warm colored. The warmer the color, the lower the Kelvin rating. So 2700 is fairly equivalent to the incandescent bulbs we were so familiar with. Anything brighter than that, white lights, a white LED does not exist. It's a blue LED with a phosphor coating on it. So the more to the right you get with the brightness of the color, the more blue you get into the spectrum. And Rick's going to talk about that later on. And where possible, controlled by timers or motion sensors. This is the way, if you're going to have a light out for security, that's the best way to do it. If you have a light out for security and it's always on, you're basically showing your criminals where to hide in the shadows. If they hear somebody, they can run and they know where the shadows are. If they walk up to your house and your light suddenly comes on, that's more likely to lose them away, if that's something you're worried about. Things that RASC National is doing for the LPA is working with communities on light ordinance adaptations. We're dealing with Schult out in BC right now, trying to get their community to recognize dark sky as a community, new designations. And we just had a dark sky park approved just across the river in Gatineau, Le Teron. They haven't got their certificate signed yet. We're having some technical issues with that, but they're ready to have people come up. So how to discuss with your neighbors. Basically go in with an open mind and with the facts, the correct facts. Be empathetic, understand from their point of view what they're trying to do, but let them know how it's affecting your point of view too. If it was if it's noise pollution, it's a little more understandable because they can, you know, if they have a loudspeaker, they don't want to hear it coming from your house. So, you know, why should you have to put up their light? Their light is a property issue, so if they want to light up their property, it's their thing, but they should keep it within their property. As soon as it trespasses into yours and it starts affecting your property rights, that's something you can bring up with them as well. It's a really touchy situation. porch lights in the backyard that are never turned off. Those are really annoying because they're always a bare light bulb type of thing, so they light up the whole backyard. There's a lot of really good resources on the net. Dark Sky International has a better website than we do right now, unfortunately, but we're working on that and we'll get that up. But check out darksky.org, and they have a lot of good information on how to talk to your neighbors. So approaching city councilors and policymakers, I'll just cover this quickly because that's Rick's topic. Evidence-based arguments, go into community support. If you have a petition sign saying, you know, your LED lights at 5,000 Kelvin is a bit too bright, that might help get them because they don't have to spend money. And practical policy proposals. So coming to them with a draft bylaw perhaps that they could adopt in on how to mitigate the light pollution. So when you're using the facts, you collect the data, put it in something that's legible, something that's quick, not too technical for a lot of politicians. They just want to know how it affects them and how they're going to get their seat back if they go with your approach. And you know, host community events. We should be inviting our politicians out to our stargazing, our star parties. We really should, at least the councillors, and if we can get an MP or MLA, that'd be perfect as well. So it was quick, hopefully not too quick. But if there's any questions, we'll do it after the three of us have presented. And that'll save a bit of time. Up next is Rick Scholes. He's going to talk about the proposal he made with the Township of Almont. Thank you.
Thanks, Bernie. Ooh, is there anybody there? Okay. Next slide. Okay, so you can consider what I'm going to tell you about as kind of a test case. And I'd first like to acknowledge the support and help from a longtime RAS member, Rob Dick, who helped me up my learning curve on light pollution abatement. So I got a lot of good information from him. He's a lighting expert, and he's been fighting this battle for many years in Ottawa itself. So my main approach to this, having been an astronomer for 50 years, and always realizing that most people don't care if their lights are bothering your telescope, is to reframe the issue. So that's the approach that I've decided is the most effective. And so you saw a lot of that in Bernie's presentation, reframing it as more of a health issue that affects everybody and all life on the planet. So I feel that's a way to reach more people. We do have a bylaw in Mississippi Mills where I live and where Flow is located. And that's unusual. There's only about 10 municipalities in Ontario that have such a bylaw restricting or putting limitations on outdoor lighting at night. More are coming, but it's a slow process. So the impetus to the work that I've done over the last 6 months is that our bylaw was coming up for review. So I wanted to make sure that Town Council was aware of its importance and that there were going to be no glitches. And I don't think there was a danger of it not being renewed, but I wanted to strengthen the bylaw. And obviously a big problem that has risen in the last few years is the introduction of LED lights. So that's put a kink in the whole process, and it has changed the levels that we need to be aware of. And the levels of restrictions in the bylaws are really no longer appropriate. The ones that were developed in the bylaw that was created in 2003 are no longer appropriate now. So at the end of it, really, I came to the conclusion that it's mostly about awareness and education. So that's sort of what this is all about. I gave the presentation on the 27th of May to the Town Council of Mississippi Mills. And when you do these presentations as a member of the public, you're limited to 7 slides and 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you those 7 slides. I presented them, each slide was shown sort of sequentially, so I would build up each slide so it wasn't the whole slide that you're going to see. But I'm just going to not repeat what I said at that meeting, but really just explain what I was doing with each of these slides. So this was my introductory slide. Councils are very busy. They're deluged with information, with paperwork, with things to read. And, you know, to get 10 minutes of their time is something. And you have to realize that you've got to make your point quickly, and they've got a million other things that are arguably more important than light pollution. So, you know, I just did an outline that I was going to define the problem. Most of the councillors were new since the last set of elections, so they may not have been even familiar that we had this bylaw. I talked about the bylaw itself a little bit, what was good and bad about the current situation, and some proposals about where we should be going with this. So this was my definition slide. I defined light pollution, and here's the reframing. You know, I was framing it as the consequences are wasted energy, are negative health impacts on all forms of life, including humans. And just back that up by saying that life evolved without artificial light, so there's no surprise that we have sleep disorders, and we have confused birds and confused animals by artificial light at night. And there's been hundreds, thousands of scientific studies done on all forms of life that you can find mostly on the National Institute of Health website in the States that catalog the negative effects of these lights to one degree or another. And just ended by saying, you know, more, we always think as humans, more is better, more is better. More light is not necessarily better, even for safety, as Bernie explained. And I quoted the famous Chicago Alley project, it was called, which was done in 2000 in 2 areas of Chicago where they had normal alleyway lighting, and then they upgraded lighting in another area. And for a 1-year period, they measured all the crime into the 2 areas that were demographically the same. And there was actually more crime in the better lit areas. It was probably within experimental error, but the point was more light didn't help. So this is a big emotional issue that you have to fight, and you have to, the only way you can do that is fight it with facts. So this is the Bortle scale, which most people will be familiar with. Going from excellent dark skies, whoops, wrong button. Where you can see the Milky Way in all its glory, to inner city washed out skies where you can maybe see the moon and the sun and maybe Venus. And you would think that Mississippi Mills would be for suburban rural transition, but in fact we're more like average of 5 and ranging to 6 within Elmont itself. From my house in Elmont, I can really no longer see the Milky Way. So I basically ended with the forceful statement that we are failing at being a night sky friendly community. I went on to, and again, when I showed this slide, I just showed the first part, you know, over here, and then I put in this part, and then I put in this part, and walked them through it. We do have a bylaw. It's been there since 2003. It governs commercial and residential lighting in a vague sort of way. The main thrust of the bylaw is that street lighting is restricted to 3,000 K, and the lighting levels on streets are prescribed in this bylaw. And there was no suggestion that this would change. We had these display panels that were made up some years ago and were on display at Town Hall for a number of years, and then they finally got tired of looking at them and we're going to throw them out. So I salvaged them and brought them to Flow, so at least they're still preserved and people hiking through Flow can see them. But they basically show you visually, okay, what a good choice of a lighting fixture is. It's shielded, You can't see the bulb itself, it shines the light down, versus the old lantern style or totally unshielded lights, or the typical backyard light like this that are light polluting because they shine a lot of light sideways and some up. We had this Good Neighbor lighting brochure that was designed, and it was a joint project between the town of Mississippi Mills and our landlord, the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. And it was a fold-out brochure that educated people about the night sky and the reason why we have a bylaw. And these were on display at the town hall. And I don't know how many people saw them, but they were there, and they provide a lot of good information. Unfortunately, the source files for these have been lost. There's been churn at both the MVCA and the town council. And we don't have the ability to print more at the moment. So these were all good things while they were there, but the problems, which I finished off with, is that we didn't update the bylaw before the introduction of LED lights. LED lights were installed on all our streets in Mississippi Mills in 2017. There were something like 813 light fixtures changed over. Saves the town a lot of money. But it creates other problems, as I'll explain. And then finally, a lack of vigilance on the part of the town and paying attention to building standards and residential lighting standards, and a lack of education on the part of the public has led to some problems that I will explain in the next couple of slides. So this is my slide on road lighting. And as Bernie explained, we had the old, we had the old style of Cobra light, the high pressure sodium, with the bulb sticking down, so a lot of light goes sideways and up. And we have the new style of full cutoff LED light, which is better in the sense that there's no light going sideways and going upwards, and not a lot going sideways. But we've really just exchanged one problem for another. So we've got full cutoff in the fixture, but we've got much more blue light, much more glare coming from the new LED lights. So this is the effect that you get. These are pictures I took off the internet, but they're representative of what these lights look like. On the commercial and residential side, these are some pictures I took myself just going around town. You know, you have the horrible wall pack light sitting here on the side of the beer store, lighting up a blank wall with nothing on it for no good reason. I would call that a nuisance light, versus the good gooseneck style lights that you see many of in the old part of town that shine the light down where you want it. Residentially, we have whole streets in some of the new areas that somehow got through the planning process with poor lighting fixtures on the fronts of houses. So at night you get a lot of glare, a lot of light going up and sideways instead of being shielded fixtures. And then you have some of the newer streets built since these that have proper shielded lights where the light, you can't see the bulb itself, the light is going down where it should be. So there hasn't been consistency in the way the bylaw has been applied to the residential units. And we have a new Minto subdivision composed of either 500 or 600 homes going in Almont, being built as we speak. And I was very concerned that, you know, Minto needs to know about the bylaw. Do they know? Have they been told? Has it been explained to them that when they build these 500 houses, they need to have proper shielded light fixtures on the fronts of houses? So that's the point I wanted to stress. So this was my wrap-up slide. And again, I presented it sequentially. So what I argued for was that we needed to improve the bylaw. We needed to not just maintain it, but improve it by putting in a standard of lower color temperature on the LED road lights and dropping to 2700 from 3000 K. I wanted to make sure that new developers coming in, and there's lots of them, use shielded fixtures on the houses. And then I got a little optimistic and requested that they prohibit decorative lighting. So and this was brand new information. I had driven around a couple of the new neighborhoods literally a week before the May 27th meeting, and to my horror, found this new trend of soffit lighting on houses that is exploding. And I don't know whether it's taking place in Ottawa and Orleans as well, but it's certainly happening in Elmont. It tends to be in the newer areas, but not entirely. And then you'll get, 5 or 6 houses in a row on the street. Maybe they got a deal with the manufacturer or whatever, but you can buy these things on the internet through Amazon, and they're cheap. And that's the problem. They're cheap, so people buy them. And this was 10:30 on a Sunday night in Elmont, lit up like it's Las Vegas. And I don't know if you know Elmont at night, but they roll up the sidewalks at 8 o'clock. So this is not necessary. It's not doing anything except lighting up our sky. So I said, we need to revive that good neighbor lighting brochure, and we need to do more promotion. If you go to our town website, which has been revised in the last few years, there's no mention of dark sky or the outdoor lighting bylaw. You can find the bylaw, but there's no reference to it in anything about the town or why benefits of living in the town. And I've heard Rask would help with this, and I've already sent them suggestions on things areas of the website where they can mention the fact that we have a bylaw and why it's important. And we'll participate, and we are participating in local events, town expos, and so on. A group of us had a little booth at the Kintail Christmas event at the Mill of Kintail last December, and it was quite successful. We were able to market Rask and also talk a little bit about light pollution. And I also referenced some websites that they could go to should these busy councillors have time for looking into this a little bit more. And I threw in right at the end the 5. This is an example of what Rask can do. This was a little graphic from an email that came from Rask National last December about things you can do to improve the night sky. So outcomes, what happened after all this? The council was receptive. They asked me a lot of questions. I was able to, during the question and answer period, get in the comment about there being no such thing as a white LED and that there was the blue light component that was the problem. I felt that was too technical for the main presentation, but I got it in the question and answer period. And so I followed up because, of course, a week goes by and they're on to other urgent matters, and it's not easy work running a town. In the meantime, I was able to, with the help of a local lighting expert who works in that profession, who had the equipment, but I now have my own spectrometer, and I'm busy measuring lights all around town. But at that time, I did not have this device, and she was able to measure the spectrum of a street light on Elgin Street in Elmont. So you can see this is what the spectrum of an LED, typical LED light looks like, whether it's a street light or a light in your home. And it's this blue peak that's the problem. So you can see it's quite large. This is a 3000K, meets the bylaw, LED street light that appears white, but it has lots of glare because of that blue peak. So I thought this was a fairly important graphic to provide to them, and I did so, and I explained that was the justification for requesting a drop to 3700K, a 3700K light bulb, which is now the same price as a 3000K light bulb. It wasn't 5-10 years ago, but it is now. It will have a much lower blue peak to it, and it'll be a warmer yellow color. So what happened out of all that? Progress is slow. The only change that I managed to get them to make to the bylaw was that it now reads, streetlight luminaires shall be 3000K or less, which at least opens the door, but the information I'm getting from town staff is that they are not willing to change away from the 3,000 value, nominal value that they're currently using. Despite the science presented to them, there's inertia that they don't want to make a change. So that's a little bit disappointing, but at least the door is open. I'm getting quite good response from the communications team in the town, and they tell me they are working on updates to the website that will put in more references to dark skies and the outdoor illumination bylaw, which is what it's called. And they are working on not a brochure, but a postcard, so a one-page brochure basically, that will go into new homeowner packages. So at least people moving into new homes in Elmont will be aware of the fact that we have a bylaw and the reasons for it, and won't immediately change their light fixtures to poorer ones. And continue to do lots of education and lobbying. I'm writing some articles for local online publications. Bernie and I did a radio show with Lake 88 a couple weeks ago talking about light pollution. I've got a public talk scheduled at the library in November, and then participating in town events, of course, where we can interact with a lot of people. And there's one next Wednesday, September 10th, and if there's any francophones here who would like to help with that, I could use one. And beyond that, just vigilance. You know, you'll see me walking around town with my spectrometer and measuring lights and checking for compliance. I'm quite concerned that you know, we're changing streetlight luminaire supplier because the Cree is no longer making the model that the town was buying. New supplier coming in, they say they meet spec. The town does not have a spectrometer to check it. So I'm the checker, and I'll be out there. So if you see some guy measuring lights at night in Elmont, that's probably me. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chetna.
Hello, everyone. You've heard the highly informative and valuable information about light pollution from my colleagues, Rick and Bernie. And as a follow-up of that info, I wish to bring the discussion to a little more user-centered or more human-centered level, whereas we as individuals and individual households can understand what part do we play in the whole scheme of things as far as light pollution is concerned. And to basically understand how the everyday decisions we make to light up our homes matter more than we think. Let's start with understanding the nature of light sources that we consciously or subconsciously surrounded on a daily basis. And let's go through these sources. It is purely for context. And everyone should be able to relate to these. Street lights, we've all seen a version of these. They can be shielded, not shielded, partially shielded, usually used to light up our pedestrian pathways. Pathway lighting, some kind of, it can be direct, indirect, as seen in the picture. Then bollard lighting, which is, we've seen all of these in our local stores. These can be shielded as well or unshielded. We also have solar versions of these available nowadays, which allow these lights to stay on for the whole night. Commercial lighting, we've all noticed those stores where the lights are on all throughout the night, and even when there are no people inside the stores, and there's no functional lighting really required. Private windows, this is a high-rise building downtown Ottawa, but also in our townhouses and our bungalows, we usually notice a lot of windows open with curtains not drawn, where the light is trespassing into surroundings. Then home entrances, where we use these kind of lights for doorbell lighting as well. And usually the reason, as mentioned by Rick and Bernie before me, is safety, which is not actually really factual. Floodlights, we've seen all of these. People install this thinking that one light solution just to light up the whole area is enough, and instead of lighting selected areas. Then we have facade lightings, usually found in public areas just to beautify the architectural elements for a building, and also a lot of people use this in bigger houses to highlight their architectural elements. Then we have exterior lighting, also can be used as home entrance lightings, also can be shielded, partially shielded, or not shielded at all. We also get solar versions of these, so they are also most of the time on throughout the night. Then we've seen exterior signs and branding signages used by stores and brands to highlight their storefronts. And then lastly, we have the very common garden lights. We've seen these. These are very common and have solar panels as well, which also allows them to stay switched on throughout the night and provides a very cozy environment, but these are basically exposed bulbs. Now, based on all of these lights, there are obviously more, but just for the context and for the sake of brevity, let's look at these 11 lights. And out of these 11 light sources we analyzed, we are either directly or indirectly responsible for at least 7 of these types of fixtures. We as homeowners and renters serve as the primary or maybe even secondary decision makers when it comes to selecting the type and quality of these lighting fixtures, which basically means approximately 65% light pollution that goes into the atmosphere is in our control. Now, let's park that for a second, and let's look at this study, which is very interesting. This was done in June of this year. This was published in June. And as a part of the study, researchers in Germany used an app called, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name, but which translates to night lights in German. The app enabled the users to walk through the cities after dark and record the different types of artificial lighting they observed. In terms of scale, the project grew quickly. In 2021, about 258 participants had joined in, and together they documented roughly 234,000 individual lights. Their observations spanned around 33 towns and cities. The team compared these counts with satellite images and sort of validated, and they found out a clear connection. The areas where participants reported more lights also showed up brighter in satellite readings. The findings: first one, streetlights turned out to be one of the biggest contributors to nighttime light, especially in dense urban areas. In city centers and commercial districts, they are the dominant source before midnight, flooding streets and public spaces with brightness. Second, after midnight, though, the picture shifts a little bit. Private homes become the leading source of light pollution. Light spilling out from residential windows are the most commonly observed type across all land uses, and in some cases, it even surpassed the glow from streetlights late at night. Third, the study also highlighted how many other light sources are at play. Things like illuminated signs, shop windows, gardens, security lights, floodlights, and even decorative fixtures all added up. Together, these accounted for about a quarter of all the light recorded, and many stayed on well into the night. Fourth, in suburban neighborhoods and smaller towns, residential lighting plays an especially large role. Decorative and garden lights are present everywhere, but in these less dense areas, they made up a much bigger portion of the total light sources compared to city centers. And finally, fifth, the big takeaway: tackling light pollution can't just be about redesigning streetlights. It is important, streetlights are very important to address. And while it's important, meaningful change also requires addressing how we illuminate our houses, gardens, and private outdoor spaces. Without that, a significant portion of the problem remains unchanged. So how do we really decide which light is good, bad, or even the worst culprit? I've come up with a very basic acronym, LIGHT, to sort of calculate a light score for each lighting that you're looking at, and would translate to level, intensity, glare control, hue, and timer. Level would be the level of light that a particular fixture is lighting. Is it focused around a certain area? Is it at your eye level or human level? Is it beyond that, or is it like a globe light or 360 illumination? Intensity and brightness would be pretty straightforward. How bright is your home? Are you using dimmers or curtains to bring down the brightness overall of your house or not? Glare control, any light outside the intended illumination and within the range of our eye level, human eye level, is glare and is considered light pollution. Hue, as mentioned by my colleagues before me, warmer the light, better it is. Timer, it's always better to have our outdoor lights on either a motion sensor or on a timer. So in a nutshell, at home, close the curtains. It's not just for the sunlight to be blocked, it's also very important to block your very bright inside and prevent that light to trespass into the surroundings, which is where it's absolutely not needed. Buy only 3,000 or less lights. I say 3,000 here because that's the limit. Bernie and Rick mentioned 2,700, that's ideal. If you can install 2,700, that's perfect. But please do not go beyond 3,000 Kelvin. Use motion sensors and timers for bigger garden lighting or any kind of outdoor lighting for that matter. You don't need those floodlights that we saw earlier. That's absolutely not needed under any circumstances, except for maybe some edge cases of industrial use, but not really required. Then dimmers or motion sensors, like I mentioned before, for outdoor lighting. And talk to your neighbors. A small chat with your neighbor, friendly chat maybe, can go a long way. And if you don't know how to do that, and it can be very anxiety-inducing too, but you can look at resources. Rask National, as Bernie mentioned, has a lot of resources. They address a lot of points to at least initiate the conversation that could help. So to conclude, we clearly don't inherit the night skies from our ancestors. We are borrowing it from our children. And a single choice, even choosing a better light from a local store, can make all the difference. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you. That was wonderful. Very informative. And we do have time, thankfully, even with the gremlins, for any questions. If you have any questions, I have a mic. You have one? Okay, stand by.
Thank you. Thank you all. Is that on? Can you hear me? Okay. So yes, thank you all. And this is coming from someone who used to work for the UN in environmental advocacy, but at a global scale. So I understand the politics of trying to deal with what is an environmental issue through the realities of budget and votes, which are the things that politicians are principally driven by. And so what I was thinking through all three presentations brought me to the conclusion, along with the spectrometer, is there an objective measure of glare? Like glare, beyond the colour difference with the LEDs, the issue of glare seems to me to be one that you could actually get a handle on as a health and safety issue. But I've just been doing some online searching. I'm not aware of anything like a recognised standard for measuring and calculating glare. Do you have anything to suggest there? Any of the three?
I think one of the examples you can get through there, see the pool of light here underneath this light.
Can you use the microphone?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So you can see the pool of light that's underneath the light here that's over top of the podium, and it's very bright in the center. But outside of that, you can see where it's kind of a different color. That would be the glare zone. So this is called the nadir underneath the light. So it's the intended spot for the light. Anything outside of that is because it's not properly shielded all the way around.
Yeah, but my question is, can you measure that? Is there a measure for it? Is there a number that Rick could take to some future council meeting in Alpha? Says, look, the way the combination of the fixture size and the temperature is measuring this level of glare, which is hazard to drivers and discomfort to pedestrians, for example.
Right.
With an actual number.
So you can get a light meter, which actually just measures the amount of lux at the level. And if you're in the nadir, it's supposed to be 80%, and outside of that, it's supposed to be 10%. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but there is an actual recognized level Even the city of Ottawa has a lighting guideline that they use for their street lights and stuff like that. And that's how you can go to them and say your street light is aimed right into my bedroom window, and they have to come out and shield it.
Is there any sense of Frontenac's success with a dark sky site up there, the one where Attila's remains will be left, that it may be beneficial to the township in terms of even modest amounts of additional tourism that might appeal to a township to preserve degrees of sky darkness so that amateur astronomers can come out and take advantage of their location?
North Frontenac is one of the 10 other municipalities in Ontario that does have a bylaw. They're all kind of similar. I think a lot of them have been modeled on the Mississippi Mills one because it was one of the first in 2003. So they do have a bylaw, and I think most of the councillors, maybe all but one, are supportive, from what I've been told, of this bylaw, and they do recognize it as a source of tourism revenue. There's some debate about that, and they could probably be doing a better job of marketing it, but the problem with bylaw is always enforcement, and as Mick alluded to, getting enough data, enough numbers in it that you can actually measure. Light trespass doesn't have a measurement, right? It's just more of a subjective thing. So bylaws are helpful, but I really have come to the conclusion that the bylaw is there to educate people, not to beat people over the head with as a club. If people recognize the value in it, they will comply with it more than they will if you threaten them or fine them or whatever. So that, I don't know, that's my personal opinion on that matter.
Good. All right, thank you. Oh, one more. There you go, Rick.
I just wanted to mention that if anybody knows, John Criswick is the owner of Top Shelf Distillers in Perth. And he's, for about a year now, has been pushing the idea of a dark sky municipality around Westport, Newborough, Narrows Lock, and so forth. He has a big property at Narrows Lock. And one of the things he's pushing, because of the interest for councillors and stuff, is the idea that it is a benefit for tourism. And it's not just amateur astronomers. I know you'll all think I'm weird, but there's not a whole lot of us out there. And there are lots of other people who do enjoy, just getting out under the stars, even if they're not an astronomer, getting out for bird bats. There's even groups now that go out with glow-in-the-dark kayaking and stuff. So there are other options out there, and talking to John might be a benefit both to you and to him. And thank you very much for your efforts.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Certainly an important topic for us in our line of interests, and hopefully we'll have some success in reaching the powers that be to implement some of the suggestions that you guys have made. So thanks again for pushing. Excellent. All right. Where are we here? All right, so we are not too bad. We have our observation reports. So folks, be on the ready. And first up will be Bob Olson. I want you to stand in the light, Bob, and let people see that shirt. There you go.
Big one?
Yes.
M52 is an open cluster that was added to Messier's list in 1774. It's about 3 light years distant. It can be seen with binoculars. This open cluster was one of our challenge objects The bright stars belong to 1685, and the fainter, lighter group is 1682. They're about 2,000 light years distant. This open cluster is another of our challenge objects. It is nearly 1 billion years old and is about 2,500 light years distant. This cluster was discovered by Caroline Herschel in 1783, so it is called Caroline's Rose. It kind of looks like a rose, but you're looking down on the rose. This planetary nebula has a surprising name of the blue snowball. It is about 6,000 light years distant and easy to see in a medium telescope. This crop of the image shows an astonishing amount of detail in this planetary nebula. Also, the blue snowball comes out even more clearly. A guy called Halton Arp included this galaxy as number 212 in his Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies. It is about 80 million light years distant. And when I zoom in, you can see that it's definitely peculiar. This open cluster is another of the challenge objects, is embedded in an emission in nebula, which I find much more interesting than the, as Attila Danka would say, boring open clusters. It is about 6,000 light years distance. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. All right, Jim.
Okay.
There you go, sir.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. The Lagoon Nebula, a sometime favorite of mine. It's a giant emission nebula, approximately 5,000 light years away, and its reddish hue is primarily from hydrogen gas, energized by young hot stars at its core. This star-forming cloud of interstellar gas is located in the constellation Sagittarius, and its apparent magnitude of 6 makes it faintly visible to the unaided eye under a dark sky, and easily seen with binoculars or a small telescope. You may notice an open cluster, NGC 6530, to the right of the core. This is a stacked image of 45 frames times 6 seconds each of exposure time, taken with the Malincam DS8300C with the Sharpstar refractor, 94 millimeter refractor. And the image was post-processed in Affinity Photo 2. Another favorite of mine is the Swan Nebula, about 5,500 light years away, also at magnitude 6. And it's one of the largest star-forming regions in the Milky Way galaxy. Strong streams of charged particles, or solar winds, emanating from hot young stars, carve and sculpt the surrounding dust and gas, which you can see in the lower part of the image. This is also a stacked image, approximately 4.5 minutes of exposure time, post-processed with Affinity Photo 2. So next I'm going to be showing you a couple of solar animations in monochrome showing prominences close up. So it's interesting to me to see how plasma moves, very often tending toward arcs and loops following the magnetic field lines. This animation was taken using the Lunt 60 millimeter H-alpha scope with a double stack and the ZWO ASI 174 monochrome camera using fire capture over a 1-hour period. Seeing was below average that day. Now, the next one that I'm going to show you is quite different. For one, the seeing was very poor that day, and so the solar surface will ripple right before your eyes. So hopefully you won't get too dizzy. It's also different because here you have two apparent large vortexes of plasma in close proximity to each other, and through their interaction, there is this gradual transformation of energy. And I wish I would have hung around a bit longer to see what was next. The sun being very dynamic and ever-changing, opportunities come and go. For this animation, I used the same equipment, a Lulun scope, monochrome camera, auto stack it for stacking, and for this particular one, IMPPG to create an inversion using the tone curve. Time span was approximately 1 hour. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And Jim Thompson up. There you go.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm trying to get caught up here. I was out of town for the previous two meetings, so this is actually my Observer's Challenge for the month of July. I thought I would be a cheeky monkey and get all of the challenge levels in one image. So this is mosaic, as you can tell, of the constellation Cygnus. It was captured over 2 nights, July 21st and 22nd. Each panel of the 10 panels is a stack of 20 frames, 30 seconds sub-exposure time. It was taken using a ASI 533 cooled camera. I put on it, just for shits and giggles, a camera lens, 50 millimeter, from a TV camera made by Canon. Fast lens, f1.4, but I had it stopped down to f4 to give a nice crisp image. And I taped on the front of that a Antlia ALPT 3 nanometer dual band filter, which gave me lots of nice detail and contrast in the emission nebulae. This was all shot from my backyard here in town, where the Bortle scale is about 9 plus. So I've added lines here to show you the outline of the main cruciform shape of Cygnus, and then I've outlined the other challenge objects. The North American Nebula over here, Pickering's Triangle, part of the Veil Nebula down here, and then the Butterfly Nebula up here. As you can see, there are lots and lots of other things to look at in the constellation Cygnus. Here are just a few of the identified objects that are in Cygnus. Lots to see and do. These are just emission nebulae that I've included, like star-forming regions, but there are also numerous planetary nebulae, open clusters, even the odd galaxy. So, well worth it to pay a visit to this part of the sky. It's pretty much directly overhead at sunset, so if you have a west-facing backyard, you can see these objects well into the fall. Now, the next image pays a bit closer attention to the butterfly. So this is a closer in view of that object that was captured on the 14th of August from my backyard, but through a 98 millimeter refractor. It was a DS432M monochrome camera with a 2.5 nanometer H-alpha filter, pretty much the narrowest filter you can get. It's a similar live stack of 20, 30-second sub-exposures, but I passed it through Graxpert for some noise reduction and I also did some sharpening in Topaz AI. Now, most people who observe this, at least visually, I suspect, see this as a butterfly. There's the outline there, if you can't see it. But I have a beef with that. I don't think this is a butterfly at all. If we back out a little bit, so this is an image taken actually 3 nights earlier, but with a smaller focal length scope. This was a 50 millimeter ASCAR scope. Same camera, same filter. But when I see this, I see a dragon's head. And I don't care what any of you say, I am going to call this the Dragon's Head Nebula. You can join me if you like. Moving on, the night of the 14th, hopefully some of you were out because seeing conditions were excellent in the Ottawa area. We haven't had such good seeing and transparency like all summer, as far as I'm concerned. So it was a late night for me. It was I think that was a work night, or was that a Sunday? Yeah, that was a Sunday, and I was up until 2 a.m. But it was worth it. I was hunting sharpless objects. So objects in the astronomer Stuart Sharpless's second catalog. And I'm just going to share with you some of my favorites from that night. This object we saw Bob showed us earlier. This is a zoomed out view. These are all captured with the this is the 98 millimeter refractor. 20 times 30-second subs, monochrome camera, but really narrow H-alpha filter, which is why I can see anything from my backyard. So yeah, some very interesting objects to see. None of these really have names except for the one on the upper right. That's often referred to as the Tulip Nebula, and it does actually look like a tulip. The next 4 of my favorites from that night. The lower 2 you may recognize or not. Certainly the one on the lower left is the Cocoon Nebula. That's a common object. It's fairly bright, easy to see. And if you can see, viewers at home maybe can see better, the cloud of dust and gas that this nebula sits within is actually coming out there. I often picture it as a spoon with some honey or something on the end that you're taking a bite of. Then in the lower right, that object is often referred to as the Lion Nebula. And it does actually look like a lion. This was about half of the images from that evening, which explains why I was up till 2 a.m. My final image is just a moment for everybody to pause and reflect on the fine summer that we had. It was very dry, a little smoky initially, but things cleared up later in the month of July, and we had, at least I had, a lot of good observing opportunities. But it's also a time to look towards the future, the observing adventures that we have yet to come this fall and winter. For example, those that may be brought to us by shiny new mounts, which I will tell you all about in a future meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. I'm always amazed by what you can pull out of the sky in town with your filters. For those of you not familiar with Jim, he's our resident filter guru, and if you have filter questions, there's the guy you want to talk to. All right. Tony.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I just have a quick skim through the August observing challenges. As we've seen a couple of times already, we've got some nice open clusters. Starting on the left with 6940, it's quite a uniform cluster with some 100 or so stars. In the middle, we got 6882 and or 6885. We can kind of see that maybe there's a distant cluster and then a kind of closer in cluster. I think the nomenclature is a little bit confused. Finally, on the right-hand side, this one, 6823, I think, with the, I think Richard said it was in some faint red nebulosity, which it certainly is, but then I thought we should have a closer look. So I got out the narrowband filters and kind of went to town a little bit with the exposures. You can really see some nice kind of pillars and globules there. And then my narrowband setup is has quite a wide field. So in fact, this is what I got. The cluster is over here, and you get all these nice filaments connecting up to a couple more sharpless objects. I think maybe these were in some of Jim's images, and this weird little planetary nebula over there, which I think is the Kronberger 9. So that was all for this month. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Some beautiful work there. And Andrea. There we go.
Go.
You bet.
Hello, so I'm here to talk about this little floaty thing that was on the sun, floating above the sun, August 10th. It's the, I ended up taking a picture of it, and it did become my APOD. What I did do is this particular image, I had done an animation and I sent it to the APOD people. And then I got an email from Robert Nemiroff saying, oh, well, this is nice. Do you know what happened to this plasma thing? Because it was floating there for like a day. And if you want to see the animation, the APOD for, oh my God, I put the wrong date. It was August 26. August 26 is the APOD, and you'll see the animation and all the field lines. Okay, thanks, Mick. So I didn't know what happened to this plasma, so I pulled out my phone, and I tend to go to this Gong network. If you Google the sun and H alpha, it tells you what's happening on the sun. And so you can see the time along the bottom. It looks like it was floating, and then eventually over time, it just collapsed back into the sun. So I found these screenshots, and I sent it to Robert, and I said, okay, I think he asked me whether it flew off or whether it fell back to the sun, and I felt all scientific, like, you know, well, I think it went back down onto the surface of the sun. So that's what he wrote in the APOD, because he writes the text. I didn't write it. And this is just a pretty picture of the Milky Way. I was on my way to Starfest, and it was actually a beautiful night the night before, and I took a bunch of pictures right under the wires, and they made really awful noises, so I moved. But that was actually a beautiful night the day before I got to Starfest. This picture, it was done in film, so I actually put a film camera on my star tracker, and so that was kind of fun. It brought me back to my youth when we tried to do film, and we had all those funny things. So I thought that was fun. I'm going to try again, try to aim it a little better. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the sun. So the big active regions you see, it's this giant sunspot region, 4197, and just above it was 4199, or maybe I have them mixed up, but one of them was the spot that launched the CME that caused a bit of aurora early this week. And it was actually a tremendously fantastic, complex sunspot, and the CME that was launched was like literally a direct hit. But the first one that hit was not oriented properly, but then there was a second hit that gave us some aurora. This is just a little time lapse with very peaceful, non-dramatic music. This is the area 4197, and it had like 50 sunspots according to Space Weather Live. And then I went up, this was the one that launched the CME 4197, and then these two little ones were 4202 and 4201. And not much was happening, just I didn't catch any flares, but I just thought it was pretty, and it was from the Labor Day weekend. And it was shot with a quark, chromosphere, and a 2.5 times power mate, so like super zoomed in. And that's it. And whoever's next,
Thank you.
there we go.
That's one of yours.
Sorry, that is one of mine, and there I have the actual numbers there, so it was 41.
Thanks, Andrea. That's mesmerizing watching the sun like that. Oh, that's me. I just have one for you, one observation. I've been keeping an eye on this little interstellar interloper that has wandered into our system from God knows where and near the center of the Milky Way. So this is Comet 3I Atlas. It is inbound. It's coming in really fast. And as you can see, I also included a couple of pictures. These are some of the latest shots from the Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope on this object. There is a lot of interest in this thing in the professional astronomical community because it is an oddball. It's only the third known interstellar object to enter our solar system. And thanks to James Webb and its array of infrared imaging capabilities, we've got some spectral data on this. And yeah, it's a weird comet. It's like nothing in our that we're familiar with in our solar system. It has an unusually high 8-to-1 ratio of carbon dioxide being emitted from it, carbon dioxide to water, which is like most of the comets in our system are water rich. This thing is throwing out very little water, at least at this point in time. That may be due to the fact that it's probably been cruising around the Milky Way in interstellar space for, by some estimates, 3 or 4 or 5 billion years. And so that's about as cold as you can get. So it may well be that it's still in a deep freeze state and it hasn't warmed up enough yet to let the water sublime from its surface and form much of a tail. As you can see, with the two best telescopes that we have, even at their high resolution, it clearly looks like a comet. It has a bit of a tail there, but it is highly unusual. So we're anticipating, well, we're hoping to be able to observe this as it gets closer. It is coming in pretty hot. My animation above there, that's 15 frames shot over a 27-minute interval there. Also on August 14th, so I concur with you, Jim, on the clarity of that night. It has increased in brightness from the first shots that I showed you, which were just a few days after the announcement of its discovery, where it was sitting around magnitude 18. It's currently around magnitude 16. It's not going to get incredibly close to the sun. It will approach within the orbit of Mars and then wing back out. Unfortunately, it'll be on the other side of the sun from our perspective, so we probably won't get a chance to see much of it until it rounds the sun and comes back out. But it's coming in really hot. Those 15 frames were shot over a 27-minute interval, and in that time it's moving at about 66, 67 kilometers a second. In that 27 minutes, it covered about just over 100,000 kilometers, so about a third of the distance from here to the moon. So imagine flying to the moon in an hour and a half. That would be pretty cool. Anyway, it is coming in. It is a little bit brighter. This sequence, it's unfortunate that the comet didn't go directly over that bright star. It just kind of grazed it there. It would have been interesting to see the effect on the combined light of that. When I had a closer look at that image, it does graze the upper limb of that, and it's hard to say, but I did seem to notice a differentiation in the light coming from the star. So some of the stuff coming off the comet, perhaps, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just seeing as well. Hard to say. But yeah, certainly nowhere near the resolution of the two space telescopes. So it is coming to at its closest approach to the sun at the end of October. It's very low in the western sky right now, even at the beginning of astronomical twilight. From our latitude, it's only sitting at about, I think, about 12 degrees or so above the western horizon, and soon it will be as it's approaching the sun, it'll be lower and lower rather quickly. So we probably won't get another good chance to see it until probably mid-November or so. So I'll keep you posted there, but I'm very curious about this object. It is only the third one of this type of object that we've seen. And we're all waiting with bated breath to see if it actually does a reverse Oberth maneuver when it gets close to the sun. Avi Loeb, the name you may be familiar with, has speculated that if it is an alien probe, it'll come around the sun and it'll be slower than when it's ducked in behind it. So we'll see what happens. But by most accounts, we believe it's a comet. So anyway, I'll keep you posted. It's an interesting object to track. It's challenging. It's brightened, but it's still only about 16th magnitude at this point in time. All right, Richard Taylor. Richard Taylor has some observations, and he will also give us our monthly observation challenges.
Okay. Thank you. So last month, the challenge was in the constellation Vulpecula, which is right there on the screen. Do you see it? It's a pretty obscure constellation. It doesn't have, it only has 2 stars generally marked, joined with a line, and it's right under Cygnus. So the easy thing to see in this view is Alberio up there. Vulpecula is just those 2 stars. One of them is a double, so it stands out in the photograph. But the interesting thing about Vulpecula is that it does have a lot of really other interesting objects in it. If you're just scanning through with binoculars, what you'll probably notice is the coat hanger cluster. That's a very striking little asterism. It does look exactly like a coat hanger, so it's something that I really like looking for with a good pair of binoculars. The other challenge objects this last month were a series of open clusters, NGC 6940, 6885 and 882, and 6823. They're all in a line there under the main part of the constellation, and in between Vulpecula and Sagitta, which is also fairly easy to spot with binoculars. So that was the region, and we've already seen quite a number of pictures of these things tonight. But here's my version. 6940 is a fairly big open cluster, but not very prominent because it's right in the Milky Way. So there's a lot of background stars here. So it just looks like a sort of slight condensation of the Milky Way. The next one is also known as Caldwell 37, as I was saying, there are possibly 2 clusters here. It does have 2 NGC numbers. Oops, I'm looking at my wrong page here. I'm not sure which one is referred to, but as I think Jim was pointing out, there do seem to be 2 kind of things here. There's a little fainter cluster here, and then there seems to be a bigger cluster that maybe includes these other brighter stars. This one here is number 20 Vulpecula, so it's sometimes called the 20 Vulpecula cluster. Personally, I really only see 1 cluster. And then this is the 6823, which I found the red nebulosity came through quite nicely with my new color camera. And yes, it does have a number of dark lanes in it as well. I didn't capture as much of that as Jim with his filters did. Now, the other challenges that I gave this month, and I did see a few on the Discord server, was the close conjunction of Jupiter and Venus in the morning sky. Now, this was pretty early in the morning. I don't usually do mornings, but it just happened that I had to go pee.
So I got up at 5 in the morning and went to the bathroom and then, oh, look out the window. Oh, I think I see it. So I popped out the back door with my camera, and this is my first effort at naked astronomy. Because it was a lovely warm morning. I mean, nobody else was out there. It was in my backyard. I was perfectly private and everything. And there I was, snapping pictures. So I got a couple of nice ones. This is quite zoomed in with my long telephoto lens, and I even put an inset there so that you can see that I did actually capture Jupiter, a little circle. Couldn't really see the stripes on it or anything. And Venus was a gibbous phase. So I was quite pleased with the result. And then I went back to bed. This was not a challenge object, but it was for me because I was staying at a very nice dark sky place up near the North Frontenac Dark Sky Preserve. I stayed in a cottage there for a couple of weeks, and I was really hoping to get the Heart and Soul nebulas in Cassiopeia. And it wasn't until the very last night we were there that I had this opportunity, because the cottage where I'm staying is facing south. It has a lovely view to the south, but this is up in the north, and that's where all the trees were. So I had to wait until about midnight before it actually came up above the trees. And then it was too big to fit in my camera. So I had to take a 3-panel mosaic in order to capture the full extent of the Heart and Soul. So I was out there until about 2 or 3 in the morning trying to get enough pictures to piece together this mosaic. But I think that's really come out very nicely. And it is a nebula that actually looks like what it's called. So those are my observations. And now we'll move on to... Okay, that's the challenges. Oh, there was 1 or 2 pictures on the Discord server of the Venus, Moon, Pollux, Castor lineup on the 20th of August too. So thank you everybody for really participating this last month. We have so many pictures on Discord, so many pictures tonight of these challenge objects. It really made me feel like, okay, people are using these challenges as a place to step off and take a tour of the universe. So I'm very, very happy about that. So what can we do for the next month? How about Pegasus? Now, Pegasus is a huge constellation, and it's just rising in the east right now. And I find it's a great sort of landmark in the eastern sky as we're making the transition from the summer observing of the Milky Way into the winter observation of other galaxies. So, of course, there's the great square of Pegasus, which is kind of like an asterism, just a piece of it, like the Big Dipper is a piece of Ursa Major. But it's really easy to see because there are 4 bright stars in a big, quite uniform square in the sky, and they're kind of isolated. There aren't any other stars nearby to get you confused. So look in the east after sunset around this time of year, and you will see this big square of Pegasus. Now, if you have more imagination, you can start looking for the head of Pegasus, but then you notice he's upside down. Well, I guess he's a flying horse doing loop for the loops or something. And then up above, there's his front legs, but there's no wings, and the tail is actually another constellation, Andromeda. So this is a good reason for getting familiar with Pegasus, is because it kind of points out other things in the sky. So from this star, the most northerly star of Pegasus, you've got this band of Andromeda coming down this way, which is leading us to our nearest big neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. And then down below it is the Triangulum Galaxy, another one of our local group of galaxies. So that's a good way of starting out looking for these other galaxies. But for challenges, we have a few other things in here. Level 2 challenge, binocular style object, is a globular cluster, which is actually orbiting our own Milky Way. But it's pretty easy to find here in Pegasus because you follow the neck up to the head and he's sniffing the flowers. So Pegasus points to M15, Messier number 15, the great Pegasus globular cluster. Quite a brilliant one, easy to find, and quite lovely. But then within Pegasus, there's even more little galaxies. And I've chosen this one here, 7479, as the next level challenge. It's pretty small and fairly faint, but if you really zoom in on it and take a picture of it, you'll see why it's called the Superman galaxy. And then inside the square, I was just cruising around with Stellarium and I thought, hey, that was weird. NGC 7497. A very weird looking edge-on spiral galaxy, but even weirder, something that doesn't normally happen, is that it's surrounded with a nebula. Very, very faint. You're going to have difficulty catching this one. This is the level 4 challenge. But there is a nebula around a galaxy. The nebula is part of our own Milky Way, and it's very unusual for these nebulas to be thin enough that we can see galaxies through them. So this is why it's a kind of unusual combination. Usually if there's a nebula, there's so much dust and gas in it that it blocks things from behind, shining through from behind. But this one isn't. It's very, very thin and faint, wispy stuff. So see if you can find those objects for this month. And for the solar system challenge, we have the dwarf planet Ceres. It's also coming up for its opposition, and that means it's pretty close in the sky to what we heard right at the beginning of this meeting. Both Saturn and Neptune are coming up to their opposition later this month. Ceres comes to its opposition around October 2nd. So it's in the same general region of the sky as Saturn, but it's even farther south. It's right at the northern edge of the constellation Cetus, which just barely makes it above the horizon from Ottawa. So it is going to be a bit difficult to see, but you'll have to use techniques like Paul's using. Take pictures over a long period of time and see if something is moving. So there's your challenge for the solar system. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're running a little bit late. Sorry for the tardiness due to the gremlins, etc. But just a couple of final announcements before we break. We do have some public star parties. There we go. July 18th and August 29th were successful, so we're crossing our fingers for September the 19th / 20th, and that will be held at the Diefenbunker site. It is public details, and that information that'll be available on Astronauts, right? Yes. Okay. All right. We're also looking for volunteers, so if you would like to come out and give us a hand with this, we usually get quite a good crowd at the Diefenbunker, especially when the moon is not an issue and when we have clear skies. So if you would like to help out either by bringing a telescope or just flagging people along, traffic control, any of that type of thing, please reach out to Deepinder Babar He's our Star Parties coordinator, and he would be more than happy to hear from you. Fred Lossing Observatory for our member, our club Star Parties. Next one is scheduled for September the 20th. And again, we will cross our fingers and hopefully we'll have a decent sky. Estelle, as I mentioned, is on the job for our loan library, and her pick of the month is the Night Sky Observer's Guide. That's actually a very nice volume there, and it'll certainly help you find some of the objects that Richard just talked about. And a reminder that Bernie Hasselman, I showed this last month, he will be setting up a training session in early September for those of you that are interested in getting trained up on the proper and legal use of green laser pointers. So please contact Bernie at lpa@rask.ottawa.ca for attendance information. And remember to practice safe use of green lasers for obvious reasons. You don't want nasty things happening to you. All right, club information. Scholes, I'll just let you read that quickly because we are running late. And I want to thank everybody for the time they spent, obviously a lot of time spent on our presentations and on the imaging that we saw tonight. So thank you one and all. And thanks for helping us work past the glitches that we had. If you have any suggestions for the meetings, just email me at meetingchair@ottawa.rask.ca. And the post-meeting meeting at Liam McGuire's is on for those of you that would like to chat with other members. It's at 1705 Saint Laurent Boulevard. So our next meeting is October the 3rd, Friday, and we hope to see you all there. And a reminder as you leave, the rest of the museum is closed to us. Thank you one and all. See you next month.